So it's a great time for authoritarian fandoms. The opportunities for openly flaunting what an utter arsehole you are have never been greater, more widespread, and more available. In fact, thanks to internet-enabled mass platforming of mean, selfish arseholery, we're now living in what we might call an age of brazen authoritarianism. Or a Bronze Age in the case of this prick. Sure, dictators have always been arseholes. But have they ever before had so many means, not just to advertise that fact, but also to do so on such a huge global scale? It's made racist, sexist, fascist shitheadery an international movement. A worldwide Turd Reich. So yeah, no wonder wankers everywhere are living their best lives. But it all really begs the question, why do you even need to be such an arsehole? What purpose does it serve? Take the big political figureheads of authoritarian regimes. What drives someone to land on the persecution of minorities, the mass murder and imprisonment of citizens, and state-sanctioned violence as a means of holding on to power? I mean, I assume deep down it's because every one of these fascist fucksocks desperately wants to be loved. They might say respected or feared, but I suspect really it all boils down to an unquenchable thirst for that one authentic non-contractual hug. In which case, why not just make people's lives better? Not just the selection of the people you govern, but all of them. Ensure your citizens have access to housing, hospitals, education, food and social welfare. Give them access to entertainment, to leisure, to art and culture. In short, make it so that everyone has their fair share of the pie. Do that, and I guarantee you won't need to waterboard anyone to win re-election, or more crucially, earn that hug. But obviously that's not where we are. Not for the strongmen, and not for their adoring cultists. What we're being offered instead is a culture of miserable, mean-spirited spite, and the politics of schadenfreude. In the US, Donald Trump hosts Gatsby parties, while outside his walls, people starve because of his policies. And we see people celebrating the violent targeting of immigrants by ICE, its forced separation of families, and policy of unlawful deportation without due process. In the UK, politicians like Robert Jenrick, Kemi Badenoch, Nigel Farage of course, and even Keir Island of Strangers Starmer emulate that shit with their own versions of migrant bashing and deportation porn. And shitheads like Tommy Robinson terrorise immigrants, shoved into hotels through no choice of their own, leading processions almost half made up of sex pests in order to protect our women, presumably for themselves at a later time. In Israel, Netanyahu's supporters revel in the genocide, happily denying Palestinians their humanity while cheering on the stealing of their land and posting videos of themselves doing it. White supremacist shock jockeys like Nick Fuentes talk about how life was better for African Americans under slavery, about secret Jewish cabals, and about how women should be property, while his listeners giggle themselves silly over his brave subversive stance, no doubt before crawling into the bottom of a wardrobe to choke themselves while they masturbate over white purity. You can't love this, you can't fuck that, you can't believe this, you can't think that, trans people don't exist, women are weak, women are property, racial purity is essential. That's all they have for us. And the authoritarian fandoms of the Turd Reich lap it up. They live for the performative cruelty. Not just that, they actively chose it. Everywhere, people are opting for clowns and charlatans, for liars and fraudsters, even when it's clearly against their own interests. Not because they think it will solve anything, but because they've given up. Of course they have, because politics has given up on them. But instead of fighting for something better, they choose the rush of nihilism. They've given up. And like moral fucking cowards, too scared to rise up against the billionaire classes who are really to blame for keeping them down, they've chosen to cause vulnerable minorities pain because it's easier to kick down. Because instead of trying to make the world happier, better, it's now enough just to know that someone else is more miserable than you. And encouraging them from the sidelines, shouting them on, we have the podcasters and influencers and all the other loudmouths of the Turd Reich, the cloned hate mannequins of Fox News, the wet-boiled gammons of GB News, sad wankers like Andrew Tate and all the other unflushed floaters bobbing around the manosphere. They're not revolutionaries, they're not truth-tellers, they're just arseholes. And they're proud of it. They're proud to be arseholes. They embrace their shitheadery, wearing their ignorance like a badge of honour, trumpeting their feelings over facts philosophy across 9-hour-long podcasts or plastering it across their merch, willfully misunderstanding the world and electing to view it through the narrowest lens possible. A tiny lens, clenched tightly in the puckered grip of a fascist's arsehole, like a bunch of fucking turds. Getting off on the suffering of others, trying to justify or wave aside genocide or oppression or any of the other horrible shit going on, you can't dignify any of that by pretending to call it a political ideology, by pretending that taken together it provides some solution to crumbling infrastructure or a rigged system in which billionaire oligarchs and tech bros laugh in your face while they steal your money. It just means you're a shithead. But luckily for you, these days, you don't have to hide it. The Turd Reich will greet you with open arms, or at least 2 Nazi salutes that you can sort of slide in between. Welcome to the movement, brothers and properly accompanied sisters. The bowel movement. Stink Heil.